Alright, so now we're going to import what we've made into UDK. So we've got our model, we've got our materials and textures and all that. So let's get started. First thing we want to do is make sure that our model conforms here to UDK's grid system. So the easiest way to do that is to go into Display in Maya, go to the grid settings, a little square, and make sure it's set to 128 by 128 with however many subdivisions you want. I usually keep it at 16 because Unreal UDK's editor uses 16 by 16 square grids to build the levels. So just make sure it's like that. Close. Then we make sure our model conforms to that grid size. So let's have a look. Right now our model for the wall is it's about 20 units across. As long as the edge hits perfectly on one of these grid points, then we're fine. So that's correct. Let's have a look at heights. And height's correct. So, alright, that'll work fine. The next thing we want to worry about is whether or not it's centered. See, right now our model has a pivot at its center. What we really want to do is change its pivot to the center of the world. So we'll just snap that holding D to get our pivot gizmo up, and V to snap it to points. So if we hold both those letters down, D and V, and drag from the center, we can drag it to the point, which is directly on the center of the world. After that, we just want to freeze transformations and delete history. So I've just got two shortcuts up here, but delete history, we can delete by type, history, and freeze transformations. And there we go. So now we'll export that out. So we'll go File, Export Selection. We don't want an OBJ, so we'll close that. File, Export Selection. What we want is an FBX. A lot of people get the import-export operations wrong, so here's the deal. If you're exporting a static mesh, that is a mesh that isn't supposed to move in game, deselect animation. You're just wasting space in that case. The next thing we want to have a look at is the FBX file format. What we want is binary and 2013. UDK will have a go at you if you're trying to import in any other type. Binary just makes the files smaller and faster to work with. ASCII just makes them huge and virtually unusable. And the last thing we want to have a look at is these selections here. Typically in Maya, I believe the default setting is like this. But what we want is to keep smoothing grids, so all our polygons are smooth, so the normals are smooth, and check tangents and binormals. That way UDK won't screw up anything during import. Okay, with that done, I'll put the model into my wall folder on my desktop, which has all my textures, and call it wall_01 arch. Arch for architectural models or something. It's a good habit to get into to have file conventions for every type of model you make. So export that out. That's done. And now we'll jump into UDK. Okay, so this is our typical scene. What we want to look at is our content browser, which can be opened, if it's not open already, with this little button here, or Control-Shift-F. So I'll bring that up. And the first thing we want to do is click New to make a new asset folder. Make a new asset folder. Give it a name, just call it Wall Test, and hit OK. Sometimes it'll open this thing, so just close that. The first thing we want to do is right click on Wall Test and save it. because UDK has a nasty habit of screwing up. So, we click on wall test, we can right click in the space, import, and we'll grab our model. So, the wall arch, open. Now let's have a look at these settings. So we want it as a static mesh. We don't want any animations. It's already combined, so we don't need to worry about that. And that's fine. So OK, yes. And if we double click, we can have a look at our mesh, and it looks fine. Perfect. So we'll close that, and we'll save. And now we'll import our textures. We'll start with the AO, since that'll be the easiest. The AO can use default settings, so we'll just hit OK. Now, before I started filming this video, I downsized the textures from 4K to 2K, just because nobody uses a 4K texture in games. That's just bloody stupid. Okay, so that's fine. Now we'll grab the others. We'll import the normal map next. Now this will need some alterations. For example, the compression settings. That needs to be TC normal map. And the LOD group needs to be texture group world normal map. Because it's an environmental asset. Okay, wait for it to import. And then after it imports, we're going to have to do some additional alterations. So we'll double click on that. And basically we want to open these, the unpack min and max. Make sure that this is -1, otherwise it won't display correctly. We also want to... I guess it did it for me. Make sure it's at linear, just so it smooths out any artifacts that might be in there when it's compressed. So close that, and we'll import our SplatMap. Again, this one needs to be... We'll import this one as default for the moment. There are some settings we need to have a look at in order for it not to downgrade its quality. For example, the LOD group. Basically, we want it to be effects not filtered. Compression settings can be left at normal, and MIPs. For this one, we want no MIP maps. So close that, and we'll save. Okay, so now that we've got all our stuff in there and it's saved, then nothing's going to happen if it crashes, which it probably will, because it's UDK. We'll go into our model, and we'll add a collision volume to it. So, we can navigate around a model by right-clicking and dragging, which rotates, left-clicking and dragging zooms in and out, and middle mouse button should sort of pan the camera. I don't know why mine isn't working. Alright, so basically all we need to do to add a collision component is to go up here into collision, and we'll give it an auto-convex collision that generates a collision based on the geometry of the mesh. So we'll just hit apply, and yeah, that has some errors in it. For instance, basically everything should be green. So what we're going to do is close that. We can turn on collision by hitting this little show collision button here. We'll try a 10D piece Z X. No, it must be Y. Oh well, Y works. Telling a wall doesn't need to be that good. Alright, now that's done. Another thing we want to take a look at is the UV channel. Now I've set up my model to have two UV channels. There's the 0, which is used for our texturing the model and all the shaders and all that. Then there's UV channel 1, which is used for light mapping. This is so we can bake light directly into it in UDK and make it look all pretty. So now that that's done, we can get started on the material, which we'll get started on in the next video. So